Namaste, everybody! The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and we're all about to embark on another wonderful class. It's so fun to learn. And today, little Sahasrara is going to teach us all about chakras.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lil Crown. My Sanskrit name is Sahasrara. I like to keep connected with divine bliss.
My name is Lil Third Eye. My Sanskrit name is Anya, and I'm super intuitive and have a big imagination. Some of my friends call me the Guru Chakra.
I'm Lil Throat. My Sanskrit name is Vishuddha. I love to talk with people and be true to myself, just the way I am.
Aw, I'm Lil Heart, and I love to love. My Sanskrit name is Anahata, and I love that too. From the heart, everybody.
I'm Lil Solar Plexus, but you can call me by my Sanskrit name, Manipura. I'm centered in the tummy, and I'm strong and confident.
Hi, I'm Lil Sacra. My Sanskrit name is Swadhisthana. I love to make new friends and learn new things every day.
And I'm Lil Root. Don't be afraid of anything when you're with me. I'm strong and courageous, and I got you.
Namaste, Lil Yogis. It's so awesome to see you all today. How's everybody this morning?
We're great, Lil Crown. Ready to start another day of enlightened learning?
What is this class gonna be about?
I can't wait to get learning. I want to learn everything there's to know about everything. And today's topic is going to be a great place to start from.
Just like our Lil Third Eye, always wanting to know something new.
That's me!
I'm so excited. I can barely contain myself in my tiny energy body. Of course you are, Lil Sacro. Well, let's not wait anymore, you guys. Let's get the class started and find out what today's topic is. What do you say?
Yay! Let's do it!
What are we waiting for?
International Yoga Day. Yoga is more than a form of exercise. For many who practice it, it has become a way of life. So much that the super popular activity has even been granted its very own day. International Yoga Day. What happens on this day? When did this day start? Why is yoga so important? All right, little yogis, it's time to stretch your mental muscles and find out. The International Day of Yoga is celebrated on June 21st of each year. This practice began in 2015, after its conception in the United Nations General Assembly a year prior in 2014. Yoga is a mental, physical, and spiritual practice that originated in India. In his United Nations address, the Indian Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, proposed the date of June 21st because it is the Northern Hemisphere's longest day. Not only that, but it also shares a special significance in many regions of the globe.
Cool! I feel so enlightened, Lil Crown!
Me too! I never knew all that. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
That would be the first time, Lil Throat. You're such a chatterbox.
I love expressing myself. What can I say?
Of course you do, Lil Throat. You love to talk, chat, and spill. You do it so well, you should be up here today.
No way, Lil Crown. When it comes to connecting us to our spirituality, you're the best.
Aw, thank you, Lil Throat. You make me blush.
Lil Throat is right. You're the reason we're here, Lil Crown. To learn and grow and know.
If that's the case, let's get going. What do you say?
All right, Lil Crown. Tell us more. Tell us more.
All right, let's keep learning. During Modi's speech at the United Nations General Assembly, also known as the UNGA, on September 27, 2014, he declared, "Yoga is an invaluable gift of India's ancient tradition. It embodies unity of mind and body, thought and action, restraint and fulfillment, harmony between man and nature, a holistic approach to health and well-being." It is not about exercise, but to discover the sense of oneness with yourself, the world, and nature. By changing our lifestyle and creating consciousness, it can help in well-being. Let us work towards adopting an International Yoga Day. After this first proposal, the United Nations General Assembly held open discussions on the draft resolution called International Day of Yoga on October 14, 2014. The delegation of India convened the consultations. In 2015, the Reserve Bank of India issued a 10 rupees commemorative coin to mark Yoga's International Day. On December 11, 2014, India's permanent representative, Asake Mukherjee, presented the United Nations General Assembly's draft resolution. The draft text won broad support from 177 member states who sponsored the proposal, and it was adopted without a vote. This initiative found backing from many global leaders. 177 co-sponsors is the highest number of co-sponsors ever for any United Nations General Assembly resolution of its kind. As stated earlier, June 21 was chosen as the date for the International Day of Yoga for several reasons. It's the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere and shortest in the Southern Hemisphere, and its special significance in several regions of the world. From the yoga perspective, the summer solstice signifies the shift to Dakshinayana, the 6 months between the summer solstice and winter solstice, when the sun moves towards the south celestial sphere. After the summer solstice, the second full moon is known as Guru Purnima, a tradition dedicated to all the spiritual and academic gurus. Shiva, the first yogi, also known as the Adi Yoga, began bestowing yoga's knowledge to the rest of humankind on this day and became the first guru, also known as Adi Guru. After adopting the United Nations General Assembly resolution, several leaders of the spiritual movement in India asserted their support for the idea. Sadhguru, the founder of Isha Foundation, declared, "This could be a kind of a foundation stone to make a scientific approach to the inner well-being of the human being, a worldwide thing. It's a tremendous step for the world." Ravi Shankar, the founder of Art of Living, praised Modi's efforts, saying, "It is very difficult for any philosophy, religion, or culture to survive without state patronage. Yoga has existed so far almost like an orphan. Now official recognition by the UN would further spread the benefit of yoga to the entire world." The first International Day of Yoga was observed around the world on June 21, 2015. The Ministry of Ayurveda, Yoga and Naturopathy, Unani, Siddha and Homeopathy, also known as the Ministry of Ayush, made the required arrangements in India. 35,985 people, including Prime Minister Modi, and dignitaries from 84 nations, performed 21 yoga postures, also known as asanas, for 35 minutes at Rajpath in New Delhi. To date, this was the biggest yoga class ever held and with the highest number of participating nations. Similar days have been held in cities in India and around the world each year since then, each with its own theme.
Wow, our journey into today's topic is underway, little yogis. How did that tickle your imagination?
Mine's tickled.
As it would be, little third eye, your one creative little chakra.
This is awesome! I want to keep whining so I can tell all my friends how much I know!
Everybody already thinks the world of you, little Solar. You're everybody's hero.
Aw, thank you, Whittle Whoop. And you're mine. I feel so grounded and strong around you.
How about we find out more? Yes, more is better, especially when it's more of your wisdom, little crown. Thank you, little sacral. More you shall receive. And I know how you love to get more of everything. You know it.
Let's get the knowledge rolling.
Aw, I love you guys.
As you may have guessed, the reception to the International Day of Yoga was extremely positive. However, there has been a lot of opposition to the day as well. In 2015, an Associated Press report noted that the first International Yoga Day involved millions of yoga enthusiasts who stretched and twisted, as well as Prime Minister Modi and members of his cabinet. It stated that Delhi's main road had become an exercise area for the occasion and reported that while Modi was speaking of peace and harmony, some residents of India thought the promotion of yoga was a partisan Hindu operation. It noted that a sequence of sun salutations known as Surya Namaskar was omitted because Muslims objected to the suggestion that the sun was the Hindu god of the sun, Surya. In addition to that, the Hindus chanting sacred syllable Om was also dropped from the ceremony. Others felt that the money spent on the event might have been better spent cleaning the streets of Delhi. In 2016, the Christian Science Monitor wrote that the 2014 United Nations resolution had been wildly popular, but remarked that yoga had a meditative component and had become known as not only a form of physical exercise, but also a mental and spiritual practice. The article cited the 2015 sermon by Pope Francis, who cautioned Roman Catholics about the idea that yoga could be a path to God as evidence. It went on to assert that Prime Minister Modi had replied to the charge that the day was intended to promote Hinduism with the words, "Yoga is not about the other life. Therefore, it is not a religious practice." The Week, a weekly news magazine with editions in both the United States and the United Kingdom, stated in 2015 that the government of India's intent in holding International Days of Yoga was to have yoga recognized around the globe as India's cultural property. The Week cited India's Minister of Yoga, Shripad Yesso Naik, as stating, "We're trying to establish to the world that it's ours." The Week stated that this mission wasn't likely to succeed because many yoga types were already in practice in the Western world. The article noted that Christian evangelicals agreed with the Indian government that yoga was primarily a Hindu spiritual practice. According to religion scholar Anne Gleig, most Western yoga was considerably changed by being in the West and devoid of religion content. The ironically agreeing views of strongly religious Hindus and Christians were historically flawed. So what is it about yoga and its practice that has captured the imagination? Let's go back to its humble beginnings for the answer.
How inspirational that was! Your wisdom is first class, little crown.
Your voice is so pretty and your knowledge is so inspiring. Aw, little sacral, little heart, thank you. You're so kind.
Can't wait to hear more. Oh, let's keep going.
All right, let's do it. Strap on your seatbelts, little yogis. away we go into more facts and wisdom.
Yeah!
The origins of yoga are believed to date back to pre-Vedic Indian traditions, but that's just speculation. Yoga is mentioned in an ancient Indian collection of Vedic Sanskrit hymns known as Rig Veda. Still, it's more likely to have developed around the 5th and 6th centuries in ancient India's ascetic and Sramana movements. A chronology of the earliest texts available describing yoga practices is anything but straightforward, varyingly credited to a series of Hindu sacred treatises written in Sanskrit known as the Upanishads. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali date from the first half of the first millennium and went on to gain prominence in the West during the 20th century. Yoga gurus from India later introduced yoga to the West after the success of Swami Vivekananda in the late 19th and early 20th century with his conversion of the yoga tradition. Outside of India, yoga has developed into a posture-based stress relief, physical fitness, and relaxation technique. However, yoga in Indian traditions is more than just physical exercise. It has a spiritual core and meditative core. The impact that postural yoga has had on physical and mental health has been a topic of systematic studies. Evidence suggests that regular yoga practice can offer many benefits for low back pain and stress. On December 1, 2016, yoga was listed by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, as an indefinable cultural heritage. In the spiritual sense, the word yoga is first seen in epic Sanskrit during the second half of the first millennium. It has become associated with a philosophical system which is presented in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the chief aim of which is the uniting of the human spirit with the divine. Even though yoga has been practiced for years, there's no general consensus on yoga's chronology or mention of any specific origin other than yoga was developed in ancient India. Possibly places of origin include the Indus Valley Civilization during the years 3300 to 1900 BCE and the pre-Vedic eastern states of India, the Vedic period, which took place between the years 1500 and 500 BCE, and the Sramana movement. Between 200 BCE and 500 CE, philosophical schools of Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism were forming, and a more coherent philosophical system of yoga started to take shape. The Middle Ages witnessed the development of many satellite traditions of yoga. Yoga was brought to the attention of the educated Western public during the mid-19th century alongside other Indian philosophy topics.
How utterly amazing! I'm so inspired right now. I feel so calm and centered.
I'm happy to hear that, little heart. I know how much you love finding inner peace.
I'm all about that, little crown. Inner peace is my middle name.
Ha ha ha. It's the best way to be. Let's all strive for inner peace. What do you say, little yogis?
I'm all for it.
Inner peace and loads of learning. Sounds great to me.
Let's do it!
All right. Follow me into a whole new world of incredible facts.
Yoga may even have some pre-Vedic elements. Some believe that the practice of yoga began in the Indus Valley civilizations. Scholars have noted that the Pashupati seal, discovered in an Indus Valley civilization site, shows a figure in a position that looks like an asana used for meditation. Mula Bandhasana. This interpretation is thought to be speculative and uncertain by more recent Srinivasan analysis, and may be a case of projecting later practices into archaeological findings. Some researchers have favored a more linear theory that tries to interpret the origin and early development of Indian contemplative practices as a sequential growth from an Aryan genesis, just like traditional Hinduism considers the Vedas to be the ultimate source of all spiritual knowledge. The concentration, ascetic practices, and bodily postures that are described in the Vedas may have been precursors to yoga. According to a professor of religious studies at Cardiff University, Jeffrey Samuel, our best evidence to date suggests that yogic practices developed in the same ascetic circles as the early Sramana movements such as Buddhists, Jainas, and Ajivikas, probably in around the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. Systematic yoga concepts began to emerge in the texts of circa 500 through 200 BCE, such as the early Buddhist texts, the Middle Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata. But it's only with the Buddhism itself as presented in the Pali Canon that we can talk of a systematic and comprehensive or even integral school of yoga practice, which is the first and the oldest to have been preserved for us entirety. The timing and completion of these yoga-related early Buddhist texts remain, just like the ancient Hindu texts, unclear. The earliest specific discussion of yoga in Buddhist literature, as understood in the modern context, comes from Theravada and the later Buddhist Yogacara schools. One yoga system which predates the Buddhist school is Jain Yoga. However, since Jain sources postdate the Buddhist ones, it is extremely hard to tell the difference between the nature of the early Jain school and the elements derived from other schools. Alexander Wine, a translator for the Clay Sanskrit Library, maintains that elemental meditation and formless meditation may have come from the Upanishadic tradition. The earliest known references to meditation can be found in one of the oldest Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The first appearance of the word yoga with the same meaning as the modern term can be found in the Katha Upanishad. Scholars believe this to have been written sometime between the 5th and 3rd century BCE. Back then, yoga was defined as the steady control of the senses that, along with the cessation of mental activity, can lead one to a supreme state. Katha Upanishad puts together the monism of early Upanishads with the concepts of Samkhya and yoga. It describes several levels of existence according to their location to the innermost being, Atman. Therefore, yoga is seen as the ascent of consciousness or the process of interiorization. This is the earliest literary work that accurately highlights the fundamentals of yoga.
Facts and knowledge! How cool! I feel enlightened already.
And there's so much more to cover.
I can't wait to see my friends so I can tell them all about what I've learned today.
I'm sure you will, Little Throat. Once you start talking, there's no stopping you.
Hey, what can I say? I love to speak my mind.
Oh yeah? How about I give you more facts for you to gab about, Little Throat?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's keep the knowledge rolling!
A description of an early form of yoga known as Nirodha Yoga, which means the yoga of cessation, is contained within the Moksha Dharma section of the 12th chapter, also known as the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata from the 3rd century BCE. There is no uniform goal of yoga mentioned in the Mahabharata: separation of self from matter, perceiving Brahman, which means the ultimate reality underlying all phenomena everywhere, and entering into Brahman are all believed to be yoga's goals. Samkhya, one of the 6 Astika schools of Hindu philosophy, and yoga are condensed together, and there are even some verses that describe them as being identical. Mokshadharma, a term in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism for various forms of emancipation, enlightenment, liberation, and release, also tells of an early practice of elemental meditation. Mahabharata defines the purpose of yoga as the experience of uniting the individual Atman with the universal Brahman that pervades all things. The Bhagavad Gita, which means the Song of the Lord, is part of the Mahabharata and also home to some truly extensive teachings on yoga. In addition to an entire chapter that is dedicated to traditional yoga practice, including meditation, it introduces 3 prominent types of yoga: Karma Yoga, the yoga of action; Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion; Jnana Yoga, the yoga of knowledge. The Gita consists of 18 chapters and 700 shlokas, which means verses. Each chapter is named as a different yoga, thereby delineating 18 various yogas. Yoga is talked about in the ancient foundational sutras of Hindu philosophy. The Vaisesika Sutra of the Vaisheshika school of Hinduism was dated to have been written sometime between the 6th and 2nd century, discusses yoga. According to Indologist and specialist on early Buddhism, Johannes Bronkhorst, Vaisesika Sutra details yoga as a state where the mind resides only in the soul and therefore not in the senses. This is the equivalent to pratyahara, or the withdrawal of the senses, and the ancient sutra maintains that this leads to an absence of sukha, meaning happiness, and dukkha, meaning suffering, then speaks of other yogic meditation steps to follow in the journey on the way to the state of spiritual liberation. In between the Mauryan and the Gupta eras, the Indic traditions of Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism were taking shape, and yoga's more coherent systems began to emerge. This period saw many new texts from these traditions that were discussing and systematically compiling yoga practices and methods. The Yoga Sutras are shaped by the Sramana traditions of Jainism and Buddhism, and they may even represent a more significant Brahmanical attempt to adopt yoga from the Sramana practices. There are many parallels in the concept in ancient Samkhya, Yoga, and Abhidharma Buddhist schools of thought, particularly from the 2nd century BCE to 1st century AD. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are widely believed to be the first compilation of the formal yoga philosophy. The verses of the Yoga Sutras are concise. Later, many Indian scholars examined them and published their commentaries. Like the Vyasa Bhashya, Patanjali gives a meaning to the word yoga in his 2nd sutra. This terse definition hinges on the meaning of 3 Sanskrit terms. I.K. Tamini translates it as yoga is the inhibition or the niruddha of the modifications or vritti of the mind, or sita. Swami Vivekananda translates the sutra as yoga is restraining the mind stuff from taking various forms. American Indologist Edwin Bryant says that, to Patanjali, yoga essentially consists of meditative practices culminating in attaining a state of consciousness free from all modes of active or discursive thought, and of eventually attaining a state where consciousness is unaware of any object external to itself. That is not only aware of its own nature as consciousness, unmixed with any other object. According to yoga master, a silent monk, and a commentator of Indian scriptural tradition of Dharma and Moksha, Baba Haridas, the meaning of yoga is understood as the practice of mental control, or niruddha. Then its goal is the unqualified state of niruddha, meaning the perfection of that process. In that context, yoga implies duality as in the bringing together of two principles or things. The result of yoga is the non-dual state, and as the union of the lower self and higher self. The absence of individuality characterizes the non-dual state. It can be described as eternal peace, pure love, self-realization, or liberation.
Slippery sun salutations! These facts are blowing my third eye wide open, Little Crown!
My knowledge is growing and my mind is getting stronger. I'll be super Lil Soa soon.
Let's keep going then. What do you say, Lil Yogis?
Yeah!
More amazing facts coming right up.
Vedanta and yoga are the two largest surviving schools of Hindu traditions. They share many the same thematic principles, concepts, and belief in self-soul, but split in degree, style, and some of their methods. Yoga school accepts 3 means to gain reliable knowledge, while Advaita Vedanta accepts 6 ways. Yoga school teaches that in the state of moksha, each individual discovers the blissful, liberating sense of himself or herself as an independent identity. In contrast, Advaita Vedanta maintains that in the state of moksha, each individual discovers the blissful, liberating sense of himself or herself as part of oneness with everything, everyone, and the universal self. They both hold that the free conscience is aloof yet transcendent, liberated, and self-aware. Furthermore, Advaita Vedanta school urges the implementation of Patanjali's yoga practices and Upanishads reading for those seeking ultimate freedom, the supreme good, and Jivan Mukti. The Yoga Yajnavalkya is a classical dissertation on yoga that has been accredited to the Vedic sage Yajnavalkya, and it takes the shape of dialogue between Yajnavalkya and a renowned philosopher Gargi. The text contains 12 chapters, and its beginnings have been traced back to the period in time between the 2nd century BCE and 4th century CE. Several yoga texts such as the Yoga Kundalini, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and the Yoga Tattva Upanishads have adopted phrases and verses from or make many references to the Yoga Yajnavalkya. The Yoga Yajnavalkya describes 8 yoga asanas: Padma, Swastika, Gomukha, Vira, Bhadra, Simha, Mayura, and Mukta, along with many different breathing exercises for meditation and body cleansing. Abhidharma's Buddhist tradition has created various dissertations that have gone on to further expand upon teachings of Buddhist phenomenological theory and yogic techniques. These have had a distinct influence on Buddhist traditions such as the Theravada and the Mahayana. During the Gupta period, taking place from the 4th to the 5th centuries, a movement of northern Mahayana Buddhism that was eventually designated Yogacara started to be arranged with the writings of the Buddhist scholars Vasubandhu and Asanga. Yogacara Buddhism got the name as it gave a yoga framework for taking part in the practices that can lead an individual along the Bodhisattva's path towards awakening and full Buddhahood. Its doctrines can be found in the comprehensive and exhaustive work, the Treatise on the Foundation for Yoga Practitioners, which was translated into Chinese and Tibetan and thereby exerted a meaningful influence on the Tibetan and East Asian Buddhist traditions. Like the Northern tradition, South India and Sri Lankan-based Theravada school have also developed manuals for meditative and yogic training, mainly the Vimuttimagga and the Visuddhimagga. According to the Tatyartha Sutra, 2nd century Jain text, yoga is the sum of mind, speech, and body activities. According to Umasvati, an early 1st millennium Indian scholar, yoga is the cause of asrava, or karmic influx, as well as one of the essentials in the path to liberation. In his Niyamasara, Acharya Kunda details yoga bhakti, meaning devotion to the way to freedom, as the highest form of faith. Acharya Hemakandra and Acharya Haribhadra speak of 12 minor vows of the laity, and as well as the 5 major vows of ascetics under yoga. This has led certain Indologists like Professor Robert J. Zindabos to call Jainism a yogic thinking system that has transformed into a full-fledged religion. The 5 constraints of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali have a resemblance to the 5 major vows of Jainism, indicating a history of strong cross-fertilization between these 2 traditions. The Bhakti movement was a development in medieval Hinduism that advocated the concept of a personal god, or supreme personality of Godhead. The campaign was started by the Alvars of South India in the 6th to 9th centuries, and it began gaining influence throughout India by the 12th to the 15th centuries. Shaiva and Vaishnava Bhakti traditions brought together aspects of the Yoga Sutras, such as devotion to the practical meditative exercises. Bhagavata Purana explains the practice of a form of yoga called Viraha, or separation bhakti. Viraha Bhakti emphasizes a one-pointed concentration on Krishna. The first Hindu teacher to actively advocate and spread yoga aspects, not including asanas, to a Western audience, Swami Vivekananda, toured Europe and the United States during the 1890s.
Double wow! That's what I call learning!
Can we hear more, Lil Crown?
If you insist.
We insist!
All right then, if you're so eager to learn more, let's get to it. If you loved what we've learned so far, these next facts will leave you electrified.
Spiritual knowledge! Here we come!
Theosophists, including Madame Blavatsky, also significantly influenced the Western public's view of yoga. Limited views current at the end of the 19th century provided a basis for Vedanta and yoga's reception, with its theory and practice of correspondence between the physical and the spiritual. Thus, the reception of yoga and Vedanta combined, and with the currents of religion and philosophical reform and transformation throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. Romanian historian of religion, fiction writer, philosopher, and professor Mircea Eliade brought with him a new element into the reception of yoga, with a strong emphasis on tantric yoga in his seminal book, Yoga, Immortality and Freedom. Yoga as an exercise is a physical activity comprised of asanas, often connected by flowing sequences called vinyasas, sometimes accompanied by the breathing exercises of pranayama, and usually ending with a period of relaxation or meditation. It is frequently known only as yoga, despite the existence of multiple older yoga traditions within Hinduism where asanas played little or no part, some dating back to the Yoga Sutras, and even though in no tradition was the practice of asana central. Yoga as the exercise was created in what has been referred to as the modern yoga renaissance by blending Western styles of gymnastics with postures from Hatha Yoga in India in the 20th century, pioneered by Sri Yogendra and Swami Kuvalayananda. Before the year 1900, there were few standing poses in Hatha Yoga. Yoga has turned into a worldwide multi-billion-dollar business, involving classes, teachers, certifications, clothing, books, videos, equipment, and holidays. The ancient cross-legged sitting asanas like the lotus pose known as Padmasana and Siddhasana have widely recognized yoga symbols. Yoga is practiced with a variety of methods by all Indian religions. In Hinduism, practices include Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Laya Yoga, and Hatha Yoga. What is often referred to as classical yoga, Ashtanga, meaning yoga of 8 limbs, or Raja Yoga, is mainly the type of yoga outlined in Patanjali's highly influential Yoga Sutras. The origins of the classical yoga tradition are unclear, though early discussions of the terms appear in the Upanishads. The name Raja Yoga, meaning yoga of kings, initially indicated that the ultimate goal of yoga, samadhi, but was popularized by Vivekananda as a common name for Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs to be practiced to attain samadhi, as described in the Yoga Sutras. Yoga is also considered one of Hinduism's orthodox philosophical schools, those who accept the Vedas as a source of knowledge. Classical yoga incorporates metaphysics, epistemology, systematic exercises, ethical practices, and self-development techniques for body, mind, and spirit. Its epistemology and metaphysics are similar to those of the Sankhya school. The metaphysics of classical yoga, like Sankhya, is mainly dualistic, positing that there are 2 separate realities. These are Prakriti, meaning nature, which is the eternal and active unconscious source of the material world and comprises 3 gunas, and the Purusas, meaning persons. These plural consciousnesses are the world's intelligent principles and are multiple, inactive, and eternal witnesses. Each person has an individual Purusa, their true self, their witness, and the enjoyer, and that which is liberated. This metaphysical system maintains that Purusas undergo cycles of reincarnation through its participation in and identification of Prakriti. Liberation results from the isolation of Purusa from Prakriti and is achieved through a meditation that detaches oneself from Prakriti's different forms. This is done by silence one's thought waves and relaxing in a state of pure awareness of Purusa. Unlike the Sankhya school of Hinduism, which follows a non-theistic, atheistic, rationalist approach, the Yoga school of Hinduism believes in the concept of a personal yet essentially inactive deity or personal god. Some Christians use yoga and other aspects of Eastern spirituality with their prayers and meditation. This has been accredited to a deep need to experience God in a far more complete way. In the year 2013, Monsignor Raffaello Martinelli was servicing his congregation for the faith doctrine. Martinelli worked for over 23 years alongside Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, who would become Pope Benedict XVI. According to Martinelli, a Christian can learn from other religious traditions like yoga, Zen, mantra, and controlled respiration.
Amazing! That was a chakra full and a brain full.
You know it, Lil Float. That's how we roll. We are the Lil Yogis after all.
Super cool Lil Yogis ready to soak up more facts and knowledge, Lil Crown.
Let's get this spiritual journey going then.
He went on to quote aspects of Christian meditation. Just as the Catholic Church rejects nothing of what is true and holy in these religions, these ways should not be rejected because they are not Christian. Instead, an individual can borrow from them what they find to be useful as long as the Christian conception of prayers, logic, and requirements haven't ever changed. Within the context of all this, these bits and pieces should be gathered and expressed anew. The Roman Catholic Church and other Christian organizations expressed concerns and even respectful disapproval of some of the Eastern and New Age practices that include yoga and meditation. In 1989 and 2003, the Vatican published a pair of documents, A Christian Reflection on the New Age and Aspects of Christian Meditation. These documents were mostly critical of New Age and Eastern practices. The 2003 paper was issued as a 90-page handbook that detailed the Vatican's position. The Vatican advised that too much concentration on the physical aspects of meditation can degenerate into a cult of the body, and that making bodily states equal with mysticism could also lead to psychic disturbance and at times to moral deviations. Things like that have been compared to the early days of Christianity, in which the Church was against the Gnostics' belief that salvation didn't come through faith. Still, instead it would arrive as a result of some other mystical inner knowledge. The document also states one can see if and how prayer might be enriched by meditation methods developed in other religions and cultures, but reveres the idea that there must be some fit between the nature of prayer and Christian beliefs about ultimate reality. Several fundamentalist Christian organizations believe that yoga isn't compatible with their religious background and considers it a part of the New Age movement that is completely inconsistent with Christianity. Another opinion maintains that Christian meditation can open the door to religious pluralism. This belief is maintained by an interdenominational association of Christians who practice it. The ritual simultaneously operates as an anchor that maintains, enhances, and promotes denominational activity, and a sail that allows institutional boundaries to be crossed. During the early 11th century, a Persian scholar named Al-Biruni visited India and lived with the Hindus for 16 years. With their aid, he translated several important Sanskrit works into both Persian and Arabic languages. One of these works was Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Al-Biruni's translation maintained a lot of the core themes of Patanjali's yoga philosophy. Still, specific sutras and analytical commentaries were restated to make them more consistent with Islamic monotheistic theology. Al-Biruni's version of Yoga Sutras reached the Arabian Peninsula and Persia around the year 1050 AD. As things progressed well into the 16th century, the Hatha Yoga text, known as the Amrita Kunda, was then translated into Arabic and then into Persian. However, yoga wasn't accepted by mainstream Shia and Sunni Muslims. Minority Islamic sects like the mystic Sufi movement, especially in South Asia, adopted India yoga practices that included postures and breath control. A Shatari Sufi named Muhammad Gwath, alongside one of the translators of yoga text in the 16th century, saw a lot of debate over his interest in yoga and as a result was punished for his Sufi beliefs. In the year 2008, Malaysia's top Islamic body passed a fatwa that forbade Muslims from performing yoga. They said that it had elements of Hinduism and that practicing it was blasphemy. Some Muslims in Malaysia that had been doing yoga for years found this decision to be insulting. A women's rights group in Malaysia known as the Sisters in Islam also voiced their disappointment and stated yoga was nothing more than a form of exercise. This fatwa is legally enforceable. However, Malaysia's Prime Minister clarified that yoga is a physical exercise. It is permissible, but religious mantras are prohibited. In 2009, the Council of Ulamas, an Islamic body in Indonesia, passed a fatwa banning yoga because it contains Hindu elements. In turn, these fatwas have been criticized by Darul Uloom Deoband, a Deobandi Islamic seminary in India. Similar fatwas banning yoga for its link to Hinduism were issued by the Grand Mufti Ali Goma in Egypt in 2004 and by Islamic clerics in Singapore earlier. According to its yoga association, there were approximately 200 yoga centers in Iran, a quarter of them in Tehran's capital. This has been met by opposition among conservatives. In May 2009, Turkey's head of the Directorate of Religious Affairs, Ali Baradakoglu, discounted personal development techniques such as Reiki and yoga as commercial ventures that could lead to extremism. His comments were made in the context of Reiki and yoga, possibly being a form of proselytization at Islam's expense. Who would have ever thought that yoga's practice could become such a combination of beloved tradition and absolute controversy? Either way, yoga continues to inspire the masses and enlighten the mind. Its history is as rich and mysterious as the practices it encourages. Whether it be for esoteric enlightenment or just a reminder to breathe, yoga can heal our mind, body, and soul. That's more than enough reason to be granted its very own day. Speaking of which, since its inception, the International Day of Yoga has exploded in popularity.
Paint me orange and call me a slippery floor sign. That was something out of this world. There's more where that came from, little sacro. Count me in. I'm ready to get my learning on, little crown. You don't have to tell me twice. My 7th chakra is bursting with knowledge to share.
Let's get to it.
The inaugural 2015 event at Rajpath set 2 Guinness World Records awarded to the Ministry of Ayush and accepted by the Minister Shripad Yeso Naik. The records were for the largest yoga class, 35,985 people, and the largest number of participating nationalities, 84 nations. In San Francisco, 5,000 participants gathered in the Marina Green Park to practice yoga to mark the occasion. In 2016, a senior government official said, "The government of India has decided to take forward the momentum created by International Day of Yoga 2015, with a greater and more active participation of youth during the current year's celebrations." The ministry created an event titled the National Event of Mass Yoga Demonstration at Chandigarh, which was to be attended by the Indian Prime Minister. India's permanent mission to the United Nations established celebrations at the UN on June 20 through the 21st. A special event titled Conversation with the Yoga Masters, Yoga for the Achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, was the centerpiece. An Indian yogi and author named Jagvi Vasudev was the main speaker at the celebration. In 2017, at Lucknow in northern India, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi joined in the event and practiced yoga along with 51,000 participants. Numerous business leaders in India also took part in the event. In New York, thousands of participants gathered to practice yoga in Times Square. Japan created a parliamentary league for the promotion of yoga just before the event in April 2017. In China, the largest gathering was 10,000 participants in the city of Wuxi. In Athens, the event took place on June 25 as a part of the Greek Open Yoga Day. On June 18, in Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, a few hundred participants gathered to enjoy the event in Ireland. Participants met in the round room of the City Hall in Dublin. 2017's theme was Yoga for Health. In 2018, the event was held in Dehradun, located in the Indian state of Uttarakhand, at the Forest Research Institute. Prime Minister Modi led an estimated crowd of 50,000 volunteers to mark International Yoga Day's 4th anniversary. The theme for 2018 was Yoga for Peace. Over 100,000 people gathered at a yoga session in Kota, Rajasthan, and performed yoga together. The massive gathering earned the city a Guinness World Record. In 2019, the 5th International Yoga Day was celebrated vigorously in various parts of India. The main event was held in Ranchi, and the Prime Minister Modi led a crowd of over 40,000 people in attendance. The theme of 2019's event was Yoga for Heart. At this event, the Prime Minister lectured India's people, emphasizing the importance of yoga for the overall health of mind, society, body, and even our climate. He said, "Let our motto be yoga for peace, harmony, and progress." He also announced that the government would be working to make yoga a pillar of the preventative healthcare and wellness system. After a month-long practice, around 1,000 participants gathered at Lakshmi Vilas Palace of Vadodara on June 20, 2019 to perform 108 sun salutations non-stop. The salutations began at 4:30 a.m. and lasted until 6:10 a.m. Due to the coronavirus COVID-19, the 2020 International Day of Yoga couldn't proceed as usual. And if there's one thing that can be said about the year 2020, it's clearly as unusual as it gets. Quarantining became the new normal for a very long period of time. Since people couldn't gather in public en masse, they were encouraged to participate at home where they would be safe. As a result, the theme for 2020 became Yoga at Home and Yoga with Family. As the world looks to the year 2021 and beyond, the future remains a bit unclear. However, there is one definite constant that you can count on. The practice of yoga as a means to heal the mind, body, and spirit will continue, and no matter what your beliefs are, the world will be all the better for it. That's it for this edition of Lil Yogis. Until next time, namaste.
And that takes us to the end of today's yoga class. What did you think?
Talk about a chakra to the system.
My third eye's really been open today.
Mine too. This is the best yoga school ever. I wouldn't trade it for anything else in this world.
Or any other world, right?
Exactly. Our Lil Crown is the best instructor a Lil Yogi could possibly hope for.
That's right. Let's hear 3 cheers for Lil Crown. Hip hip,
Hooray!
hip hip,
Hooray!
Thank you, everybody. Teaching you was my pleasure. Until the next time, namaste.
Namaste.